My name is Marcus, and I restore memories for a living. Or at least, I used to. I run a small studio in Seattle, specialized in digitizing old 8mm and 16mm film reels. Most of the time, it's boring. Wedding videos from the 60s, blurry birthdays, or grainy vacations. But 3 weeks ago, a package arrived with no return address. Just a rusted tin box and a note that read, "Don't blink." The metal was cold, smelling of vinegar and stagnant water, a sign of advanced vinegar syndrome where the film base begins to decay. Inside was a single 16mm reel. No labels, no dates, just the raw celluloid remains of someone's life. I should have thrown it away. My gut told me it was trouble, but curiosity is a professional hazard in my line of work. I spent the afternoon cleaning the film, carefully removing decades of dust and mold. As the sun began to set, casting long orange shadows across my workbench, I finally threaded the reel into the scanner. The mechanical hum of the machine was the only sound in the room. I hit record and watched the monitor. The image flickered to life. It was a dinner scene, a typical American family in the mid-1970s. The colors were warm, oversaturated yellows and browns. A mother, a father, and 2 young children were laughing around a table laden with turkey and mashed potatoes. It looked like a silent, happy memory. But something felt off. The camera wasn't moving. It sat on a tripod, perfectly still. And then I saw him. In the background, through the dining room window, a figure stood in the darkness of the backyard. A man in a sharp black suit. He wasn't moving. He was just standing there, a silhouette framed by the glass, staring directly at the house. I paused the frame. I thought it might be a reflection or a prank played by the family 50 years ago. I zoomed in on the window. The man's face was pale, his eyes wide and unblinking. He didn't look like a person. He looked like a statue placed there to haunt the frame. I shivered and pressed play again. The scene lasted for 10 minutes. The family continued their meal, oblivious to the predator outside. But as the minutes ticked by, I noticed something impossible. Every time the camera's shutter blinked, the man in the window was an inch closer. Between frames, he was moving. By the end of the reel, his nose was pressed against the glass. I finished the digitization and sat in the dark for a long time. I checked the film again. It was a physical reel, celluloid. It shouldn't be able to change. Yet I felt a deep, primal fear that if I watched it a second time, he wouldn't be behind the glass anymore. He'd be inside the house. The next morning, I started researching. I needed to know who that family was. After hours of scrolling through digitized newspaper archives from 1974, I found it. The Miller family. In November of that year, the entire family vanished from their home in rural Oregon. No signs of a struggle, no blood, just an empty house and a camera on a tripod still running. The police report mentioned something chilling. The investigators found the camera, but the film reel was missing. Someone had taken the evidence before the cops arrived, and now, 50 years later, that evidence was sitting on my hard drive. My hands started to shake. I felt like I had inherited a curse. I decided to watch the footage again, looking for any detail I might have missed. I opened the file and scrolled to the middle. My heart stopped. The man in the black suit. He wasn't at the window anymore. He was standing in the corner of the dining room, right behind the young daughter. That's impossible. I whispered to the empty room, "Digital files don't change." But there he was. He was holding a small silver hand mirror. He held it at an angle, reflecting something toward the camera. I realized he was showing the person behind the lens a message. I enhanced the reflection in the mirror, frame by frame. The reflection wasn't showing the 1970s kitchen. The mirror was showing my studio. I could see my workbench, my coffee mug, and the back of my own head sitting in my chair. The man in the film was looking through time, directly at me. He was tracking me. I jumped out of my chair, knocking my headphones to the floor. I scanned the corners of my room, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The studio was empty. The door was locked, but the air felt heavy, charged with a static electricity that made the hair on my arms stand up. I turned back to the screen. The man in the suit began to move in real time. He slowly turned his head away from the family and looked directly into the camera lens. His mouth opened, wider than any human mouth should, revealing rows of thin, needle-like teeth. A low, rhythmic scratching sound started coming from my speakers. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It wasn't coming from the audio file. It was coming from the wall behind my monitor. It sounded like fingernails on drywall. I grabbed a heavy flashlight, the only weapon I had, and backed away toward the exit. My eyes were fixed on the screen. The family on the film was gone. The table was overturned. The food rotted in an instant, and the walls of the 1974 kitchen began to peel and bleed. In their place, the image on the screen transitioned. It was no longer a recording of the past. It was a live feed of my room. I saw myself on the monitor, standing near the door holding the flashlight. And behind me, emerging from the shadows of my own closet, was the man in the black suit. He was taller than the ceiling, his body bent at unnatural angles to fit into the room. My phone rang. The caller ID was just a string of zeros. I didn't want to answer it, but my hand moved on its own. I pressed it to my ear. A voice, sounding like dead leaves blowing across a grave, whispered, "The last frame is yours, Marcus. Welcome to the collection." I dropped the phone and looked at my hand. It was becoming grainy. My skin was turning to shades of gray and sepia, flickering like old film. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. Only the silent hiss of a projector. I am still here. I am in the frame. And now you are watching me. Whatever you do, don't blink.